Thank you for stopping by. My name is Cream, and I recently decided that I was in the mood to redesign some of my old characters, and one particular group came to mind. When I was in about 5th or 6th grade, I used to do these little Roblox roleplays with a friend of mine. We created 2 characters named Felix and Felicia who were siblings, and they'd go on little adventures together. Then we started to include a few friends, our pets, and it gradually grew from there. I had to have created over 100 pieces of art and comic pages over the years, and I knew exactly how the story would run from start to finish. I planned for it to be a series of comics with several parts to it, until it reached its finale. In this video, I'll discuss the original plotline and go over my redesigns. To get you up to speed, let me walk you through the basic plotline. These 2 siblings lost their parents at a young age in a house fire and live on their own until their late teen years before being afflicted with a curse by evil elemental spirits, the primary antagonist being the Lord of Death, who was called Lucifer, because I couldn't think of anything else at the time. This curse impacts their physical appearance, hence the multicolored hair on Felix. I still have no idea why, but a couple of angels sort of showed up at their house one day and made Felicia an angel, so she's got that going for her. She's got a crown/halo thing that makes her immortal just as long as she has it on, and then whenever she gets super angry or very sad, she has an alternate form where she becomes what is essentially an ugly silhouette. One day, their friends invite them on a little getaway by boat that goes horribly wrong, resulting in them being trapped on a deserted island full of monsters and fantasy creatures. From that point onward, they fight evil, form close relationships, make new friends, and encounter new elemental beings which give them even more weird powers. Eventually, they make it back home, but their story is long from over, and throughout the next several comics, they travel to different kingdoms, other dimensions, and their adventure ends with them defeating Lucifer, breaking their curse, and returning to the, quote, real world, and living out the rest of their days happily ever after. It was flawed in a lot of ways, and I knew that, but it didn't bother me. I just really loved working on this big project with my friends before we kinda drifted apart. Except for my friend behind the character Felix. He's still around and he's pretty cool. However, now that I'm older and I've worked on a lot more projects, including other self-insert stories with different friends, I know that the self-insert style plots are much more difficult to maintain unless you're lucky enough to stay super close with everyone involved. So, aside from my other projects, I've started to adapt these old stories to contain original characters where there's no link to real-life people and you can sort of just have fun with it. That being said, let's move on to the redesign and introduce our new protagonists. First up is Natalie. She's 5-ish years younger than her brother and is about to wrap up her final year in high school. She gets along with others very easily and takes pride in her thriving social life. She does, however, harbor a good deal of anxiety as she's not really sure what she wants to do once school is over and kinda lacks self-confidence. Her brother is very protective, and since they were young, he's been the one to handle everything for her. Although she's grateful for this, she can't help but feel kind of underprepared for the real world. As for her redesign, she's gone from a mostly red palette to blue and leans into more pastel tones. I wanted to take full advantage of using colors as a storytelling tool. Although she seems strong and confident on the outside, that blue sort of symbolizes her underlying timid and fearful nature. I never knew how to draw hair as a kid, and I'm still actively improving, but I adapted that into a sort of messy butterfly cut that I think really suits her. She's not super huge on fashion trends, but instead enjoys making up her own outfits. Her current obsession is a mix of modern elements with Y2K, however, this changes usually once a month. You can't see them, but she's also got some angel wing tattoos on her back as a callback to her OG design, and the stars throughout will be tied to her powers that she gets later on in her story. Now on to Killian. He and Natalie were born into a broken, unstable home which required that he grow up and take care of things pretty young. He worked incredibly hard, saving every last dollar to find a cheap place that they could stay when he grew older. But most importantly, to make sure his sister was safe and happy, although the experience has resulted in him being cold and reserved. Even today, he works non-stop to keep a roof over their heads. However, times have gotten tough and it's become harder to afford what they used to. But he tries his best not to make Natalie worry. Little do they know, they're about to make some new friends and go on a long, most definitely dangerous adventure that makes finances seem like the absolute least of their worries. For his redesign, the first thing I did was get rid of that purple hair and the deer horns. His hair is a little lighter like his sister's, and a lot of the guys in this series only really wore suits, so I kept him in that. Since he's always working, I thought it could work. Even though he could care less about business, he's got that dress for the job you want mentality, and it's worked decent enough. When he is at work, he takes off his rings and piercings, making sure to also keep his tattoos covered, but I kept his sleeves rolled up a little in the drawing to show them off. So, for their story, I really like the whole concept of curses, so I plan on playing around with that some more. I'm thinking that while Killian is in college, he gets assigned to a group project where they have to make a presentation on ancient mythology, specifically some kind of structure, and discuss its cultural significance and impact. In the process, they find a very old book in the campus's library that leads them to a temple-like tomb, and visit it as a group to document their findings. Unbeknownst to them, however, it contains the remains of a rebel who at one point fought to keep their reality safe from a nightmarish threat. In the midst of a long-standing war, he encased himself into a sarcophagus, patiently waiting for one of his allies to find and revive him, only for this to never happen. One of the group decides to inspect the sarcophagus before being afflicted with a curse that now had a vice grip on all of them, and now whatever entity is out there views them as a threat. And that's sort of what kickstarts their whole adventure. That's all I've got for now. Obviously, everything here is subject to change, but it was still a lot of fun revisiting this whole project. If you're interested in keeping up with these characters and their story, I'm planning on making more videos with them in the future, including a lore dump where I can delve further into them, and if any of you are curious to learn more about the original comics, I'd love to talk about that too. This was a lot of fun to make, and I just want to thank you all again for joining me. I don't plan on any more big hiatuses anytime soon, and I'll be hard at work to produce high-quality videos every either 1 to 1.5 weeks. So I've got a lot of fun video ideas I can't wait to share with all of you. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and I'll see you all next time.